I wanted to wait before I covered anything to do with Marvel's Venom, which is the potential game that we're seeing, but a very credible source called MP1ST has claimed that Venom project is still in development. And if you don't know anything about, Marvel's Venom, or if this is the first time you're hearing about it, well, let me just tell you, this source, right, MP1ST, has correctly well, I guess the correct term would be leaked, but they've correctly leaked Horizon Zero Dawn Remaster and an FPS game from Sony Bend that was reported as cancelled, which is very interesting. And this is also alongside the Persona 4 remake reveal as well. So they have some very good connections when it comes to this. And I'm incredibly excited because if you remember, during the release of Marvel Spider-Man 2, Insomniac Games has asked fans if there's any demand for, Venom game. We're all ears for it, and it seems that, with the positive reception of people wanting a Venom game, that they've listened. And not only just that, but MP1ST also revealed some details to do with the Venom game. However, some of this stuff should be taken with a grain of salt in case it isn't accurate. The main thing here is that the Venom spin-off project is happening. It's going to be similar to Miles Morales, and it also quite potentially could be releasing in 2027, and it could be like one of the titles for the PlayStation 6, which is pretty crazy to me. But the fact that we're getting Eddie Brock with Venom, like the symbiote, is already just perfect, right? So the main thing for this information right now, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts as well in the comments. What do you want from the Venom game, right? What do you want to see Eddie Brock do? What do you want to see Venom be like? Definitely just let me know if you want him to be way more accurate to the comics as well. But the most important information we received from our main source is that Wolverine's still on track for 2026 release, and Venom has been in active development. While we haven't been able to determine how advanced the Venom project is, if we assume Wolverine remains the priority, it's likely that the game is still in pre-production. And if you guys remember that terrible hack that the studio went through, which I'm still upset about, like that is a terrible thing. They were quite possibly recovering from that and trying to figure out how to move forward, because a breach like that it's such a ridiculous scale, man. It affects so many things, right? But there are also some details from the story that we got from a different source, but since we couldn't verify these, we recommend that you take these tidbits with a grain of salt. So this is what I was talking about, the grain of salt part. The main information is that the Venom game, Marvel's Venom, is still in production, which is perfect. And this will most likely be the game in between, Marvel Spider-Man 2 and Marvel Spider-Man 3, where the whole Carnage plot gets, finally solved. So, one of these would be that Eddie Brock will take on the protagonist's role. This might seem obvious to some, given what happened to the last user of the symbiote in Spider-Man 2, Harry, who ended up, being in a coma after, Peter used the Anti-Venom symbiote to completely, to stun him, and then the particle accelerator destroyed the rock, which also destroyed all the symbiotes in the vicinity, including what we saw of the Venom symbiote itself. But this helps us rule out the possibility of other symbiote users taking the lead, such as Flash Thompson, who was Agent Venom in the comics, or even an original character. We also know that at least visually, this Eddie Brock will be closer to his comic book counterpart, more so than his live-action rendition played by Tom Hardy in Venom films. And if comic book Eddie Brock, that's such a good sign. We definitely want a comic accurate Eddie Brock, that's for sure. On the topic of characters, the Venom game could also see the return of Cletus Cassidy as Carnage, who was previously leaked as the main villain of the game based on different factors, right? Additionally, Anti-Venom would be featured, but not the version controlled by Peter Parker. Instead, we would see the more monstrous-looking version from the comics that Eddie Brock eventually uses. As with Peter Parker and his struggle with Venom, Eddie can maintain total control over his persona with Anti-Venom, so this could play a significant role in the story. Now, the whole Anti-Venom thing being something that we see here, could it be that they're setting up Eddie Brock and Venom to have an arc where they get separated and then Eddie gets Anti-Venom? Because if you know, in the comics, the way Eddie gets Anti-Venom It's kind of similar to what happened in the game for Marvel Spider-Man 2. It does involve Mr. Negative. So how would he get Anti-Venom this time around? I do completely wonder with that. I am quite curious, but there is a lot of stuff that does have to be explained, because we did see the symbiote pretty much get destroyed in Marvel Spider-Man 2. So will this have to do with the tongue that we saw get cut off by Craven? What's the Venom that we saw? Not 100%. Like there's just so much to kind of fill in the blanks, right? Because you got to remember, what we saw is pretty much the original symbiote get vaporized, as well as everything there besides Anti-Venom for, you know, Peter, and then the Carnage symbiote that we see Cletus gain and disappear with. Now, my main hopes, of course, would be for this Venom when it comes to the gameplay, and let me know what you guys want as well in the comments from the gameplay. But I gotta see my boy Venom web swing, right? And I don't want him to have toes. I don't want him to have those toes anymore, right? Like that, nope. I need him to web swing, and of course, you know, you could probably have him like glide as well, realistically. I like to see him also be somewhat stealthy, because he can do that. He can be stealthy, right? Like that'd be pretty cool. But I'm just very excited to see what they do with the gameplay, because if they're tying up the whole plot of the symbiotes to do with, you know, Carnage, it'd be really cool to actually see, because we get to see Scream in the form of Mary Jane, you know, getting that symbiote. It'd be cool if we could see the rest of the Life Foundation symbiotes, because we did see a model for Riot in the actual game files. So it seemed that we were going to get the Life Foundation symbiotes, but then they were cut from the game due to some changes being created. But that would be one of the best things to see. If we're going to finish off the whole symbiote storyline, might as well just do it right. And then we also got to see, because Eddie Brock, for the most part, always has a bone to pick with Spider-Man. So I wonder, since Peter's now on a break, is he just going to go to Bugle himself, and then they're going to have a scuffle, and Eddie Brock's just going to hate Spider-Man, right? Like, is that going to happen still? Because, you know, with Venom, that's actually one of the more important plot points, and how Eddie Brock kind of turns around and becomes a lethal protector, right? Like he kind of goes in an arc where he sort of becomes good in his own way, right? He redeems himself, and it's always about the morality of his choices that are very, very important. And like it's just an arc of his character. Bruce just pissed off at Peter Parker for doing him wrong. Now, as I was saying, the Marvel's Venom game will more than likely be the sort of cross-generation, you know, PS6 launch title for 2027, if that's when they're going to launch the PlayStation 6, because, you know, that's what Miles Morales was for the PS5, right? Like Miles Morales released on the PS4, and then also on the PS5 during the launch, and then we also got Marvel Spider-Man Remastered as well. So it seems to be that things are looking good, man. Like it's great to have some hype again. Of course, like we know that Marvel's Wolverine's still heavily in development, right? But it's kind of nice to know that, you know, the Venom game won't be far behind when it comes to this, right? We'll get to see Cletus Cassidy return as Carnage. I'm very, very excited to see the design for that character. I'm just very excited to see where they go with this sort of story as well, because Miles Morales, like that game was so much fun, man. And I'm excited to see how they expand upon just the entire moveset of Venom, the things that he can do, the abilities, the whole storyline with Eddie, and just how they wrap things up. And also, we'll more than likely have to see Peter and Miles as well, right? Because like when you get threats on a big scale, right, like that even Venom will have to deal with, like Carnage. I mean, Carnage is such a strong opponent that, you know, Spider-Man and Venom had to team up against him. Like they had to make a temporary truce to team up against him. So I'm just saying, man, we're in for a ride. We're definitely in for a ride. And then I didn't even mention the fact that, like, you know, you're seeing like gameplay on the screen right now, which is one of the mods that's made by Reza, where you've got a more comic accurate Todd McFarlane look at Venom. But since we have already gotten so many costumes for, Miles and Peter, we're more than likely going to get, different outfits for Venom, like different costumes, which means we could get the movie ones, the 2018, Venom. We could be getting like a comic one. We could be getting like so many different versions. There's like animated versions of Venom. We could be getting the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 3 Venom. Like it's going to be super good, man. And that's one of the things I'm also incredibly excited for, is the different costumes and things. And if we're going to get Anti-Venom as well, there's more than probably going to be like suit styles for that as well. Like imagine a Carnage Venom, imagine a toxin skin. I mean, there's just so many different Venom skins that you can pull from. We could even do like a Marvel Rivals Venom skin if you really, really wanted to. So it's looking good, man. I'm very, very excited for the future of this, and I wouldn't have covered this otherwise if this didn't seem completely reliable, because I don't want to make videos where I just kind of function on guesswork for the most part, because it's fun to speculate and get the community's thoughts, but it's also important to actually have something there of substance, because I had a feeling this was in development the whole time, like for sure. I completely trust Insomniac, but I didn't want to make videos when we didn't have the most credible sources, if that makes sense. And MP1 ST is just completely reliable, man. They've gotten so many different things like right from different sources, so it's looking good for a Venom game. And again, let me know what costumes you'd like to see, what gameplay stuff. How would you want, Eddie Brock and Venom to interact? How would you want Eddie Brock to interact with Peter? Just let me know what you guys think. And yeah, have a nice, wonderful day. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.